Hello again, and welcome to this episode of the Guns Magazine podcast. I'm your host and the editor of Guns Magazine, Brent Wheat. Well, we've got another great episode today. Roy Huntington and I were talking, and we were discussing the 1911, and finally Roy said, just hit the record button. Let's go. I said, okay, we will. So this turned out to be kind of an impromptu discussion of our question of the day, which is the 1911 dead or not? Well, you can probably guess our answers, but we're going to get into that right now. So here's Roy Huntington with our discussion of the 1911. Well, hey there, Roy.
Hey there, hi there, ho there. We're as happy as can be, right?
Okay. I didn't expect that from you, but
I don't know where that came from. Yeah, I think, well, that's at Mickey Mouse Club, huh?
Yes.
Hey there, hi there, ho there, we're as happy as can be. M-O-U. Yeah, there you go. Well, that's how I feel.
Have you been drinking this afternoon?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay. Maybe the low alcohol light indicator light is blinking. Could that be it?
Blink, blink, blink. Yeah, you're right.
Wow. Okay. Well, this is truly an impromptu kind of episode of the Guns Magazine podcast. Because we literally we start talking about something, and Roy goes, just hit record. Okay.
Let's hit record.
We're going to.
All right, I'm going to start. You ready?
Okay.
I'm going to start. Brent, I say the 1911 is dead. And what do you think?
Oh, well, first of all, I think I know you and you're being facetious, but no, it's one of those questions that if you look on the interwebs and you look on the forums, you still get people saying, well, that's over 100 years. It's 112 years old. And, it's an old platform. It's outdated. And yet here it is. Especially say our friends at Springfield keep bringing out all these really great 1911s. Oh, looky there, such as that. So it's not any more dead than the M16, okay, or the AR-15. But no, I think today maybe we should discuss and celebrate this venerable platform that is old and worn out and 100 years old, and nobody would carry one or use one except like everybody we know. So,
well, you're right. And I think, this is, it isn't 9mm versus 45, really. I mean, or it's 30-06, new loads for the 30-06. But what I wanted to talk about was the fact that, yes, I think there are iterations of the 1911 that are essentially dead, and they should be dead. I mean, in other words, what I see is the polymer pistol Patriot, people. They discount anything unless it's a modern, built with CAD CAM, that kind of stuff. And what they usually forget is the fact that they don't know is all. In other words, when you educate yourself, you'll say, oh, actually, this isn't bad. I mean, I have people shoot in my backyard with me here who have never shot a 1911. They grew up on a Glock and they grew up on, M&Ps and that kind of stuff. And I bring one out and they say, oh, it's one of those old guns. Even though the gun I'm holding up is a $5,000 custom pistol. And so I say, well, look, and I show them how it works and stuff. And then they pull the trigger and it's a really good trigger, right? And they look at the sights and they go, well, these are really good sights. And then they shoot it in 9mm and they actually hit the target every time because it's a really good trigger. And suddenly they don't know what to do. It's like their whole world is crumbling down around them.
Well, exactly. You've shattered their preconceived notions. And that's one of those things for every human. When your preconceived notions get shattered and you realize maybe I was wrong, that's a hell of a thing.
Well, you know what it reminds me of? When you've got your GPS on your phone on, you're driving, you take the wrong turn, and it goes, recalculating. and that's, you see, they're like recalculating. It's really funny. But now, is the 1911 dead? And what I mean is, if you have a World War II GI beater 1911, you should probably not carry that as a defensive gun, you know?
Yeah.
And I think people mistake that for a new Springfield Armory EMP, 9 millimeter EMP. Is that what they call it?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And because it's two entirely different things. I mean, one is a Model T Ford, and one is a 2024 fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And so because something looks old doesn't mean that it doesn't work or that it hasn't been re-engineered to be exceptional. So you can still buy a Chevy Camaro, and it's not the same Chevy Camaro that was made 50 years ago. And
Right.
so, guess what, boys and girls? You can buy a 1911 that was made 100 years ago, or you can buy a 1911 that was made last week. And I promise you, with very rare exceptions, the one that was made last week takes advantage of modern CAD CAM technology, modern CNC machining, modern metallurgy. I mean, all of these things. And so they've updated that. It's like if we did an Apollo space capsule, only we did it today, and it looked like an Apollo space capsule. Guess what, boys and girls? It would be all full of modern technology. Everything would be better, smoother, faster, and I have to go back to the thing is that if you think the 1911 is a dead platform, you don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I'm going to go a different direction because what you pointed out with that EMP is essentially it's very true to the design of John M. Browning. So they've not added a light rail or any of that. The only thing really different is a 9 millimeter, and moving to a 9 from a 45 changes the physics quite a bit. And a lot of people have tried it, and only a few have done it well. But when you get right down to it, though, it looks like the basic design. So I think that just verifies right there that design was pretty remarkable even 110 years ago, and it's still remarkable today.
Well, you know what? If John Browning walked in the door here in my office and I said, "Hi, Mr. Browning," because I'd call him Mr. Browning. I wouldn't say, "Hey, John, what's happening?" I wouldn't ask him to high five with me, but I would say, "Mr. Browning, I'm honored to have you in my office. And would you like to look at this gun?" And what would he say? He would say, "Oh, yeah, hey, it's a 1911. Wow, this is interesting. There's some different features here I'm recognizing, And then he'd run it and he would say, "Wow, that's a really good trigger pull. How'd you do that?" And probably when I looked away, this would be in, 39 different parts, and he would be looking at it. And so, well, in the gun cranks, we talked about retro guns. You were talking about the AR platforms. And I mentioned the fact that on the knife side of the business, old knife designs and styles and things are coming back. Bone handles and O1 or D2 tool steel and brass guards and that kind of stuff. But the interesting thing about that to me is the fact that if you pick up a Loveless style drop point hunter, like a 4-inch drop point blade and his tapered tang, stag grips, it doesn't really matter. And when you pick that knife up, it feels really, really good. And it looks like it could skin a deer, And that's exactly how it looked 45 years ago, 50 years ago, when Bob Loveless designed it. And it's a bit like that old adage about how do you carve a cigar store Indian? You cut away everything that doesn't look like an Indian, And I think there are certain iconic things like 1911s where they've pared away everything that's unnecessary, and what remains is a solid platform fighting pistol. And I think we're losing our way a little bit because you said it a while ago. I was like, gee, look, there's no, light rails, lasers, TV sets sitting on the top, unnecessary slide cuts, all this other kind of stuff. And I'm not saying that's bad. If you want to do that, just do it. There's nothing wrong with that. We do it for fun, great. And if you have some tactical reason that you need all that stuff, well, then apply it, But don't discount, what works.
Yeah. Well, I was going to go down the road that Tom McHale, the editor of American Handgunner, usually goes down. One of the things he said to me, and don't tell him this, I'm going to say this, but one of the things that he said to me that really blew my mind a few years ago was shooters tend to be binary. And what he means, if you understand binary, it's either 1 or 0. And that's how computers operate. They operate on logic. It either is working or it's not. It's digital. It's on, it's off. And that's the only 2 states. There's nothing in between. And shooters tend to do that. So if you're a big fan of, say, the Glock, people tend, as a group, tend to say, well, those 1911s are awful. Why are they awful? Well, they just are. Well, okay. Why is that? Well, the Glock's better. And why is that? And that's what I think, we as a group, as a brand, FMG Publications, Guns Magazine, American Handgunner, Roy and Brent, we try to point out that take things on their merits and not just say because you don't use that or you don't personally care for it or you don't like it, that doesn't mean it's bad. I mean, it may be, but have some reasons why. And I think that's kind of where this goes back to is you get people that maybe aren't as experienced and I'll say it, amateur, because when somebody tells me, well, that gun's awful. Why? And if they go, okay, this point here and the steel and this cut, and okay, that person made some good points. Well, but if you ask him, well, it's just, it's old, it's stupid.
It just
What
is.
did he just, it just is.
Because.
What? Yeah. What they've told you is they're not smart enough to understand the answer. And then the corollary to that, of course, is, well, the grip angle. Well, the grip angle is as it was designed. So if it doesn't fit you, that's okay. But discounting it and say that nobody should use that gun, it's a stupid design. Again, you're not making a reasonable evaluation. So what I'm getting to here is just throwing something away because you don't care for it is the height of amateurism in my book.
It's, you know what? It's the height of democratic liberalism. Well, this is going to light them up. Huh? Think about it.
Wow.
Because when they can't respond with facts, what do? Personal attacks.
They just make something up. Yeah, personal attacks.
Yeah. Oh, I don't like that 1911 because it's old and it looks stupid.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah. Who's winning now? I'm winning because you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Wow.
You're right, though.
It's exactly it. I have never said that Glock is a bad gun. I have never said that if you own a Glock that you're an idiot, because you're not. It's a perfectly good gun. It works good. I once watched Robbie Latham. This was a million years ago. We were at a demonstration match or something, and they had a lineup of pistols on a table, and it was like a Springfield Armory and a High Point and a Browning High Power and a Colt 1911 and a Smith & Wesson revolver and a something else. 6 or 8 entirely different guns. Different grip angles, different functions, everything. And he went from one to the next and he picked them up and he cleaned, plate rails one after another with them, Now, yes, Robbie Latham is from another planet. I got it, but what I mean by that is that I think for people to make this sweeping thing, like you said, oh, well, no, they're stupid. It's like, I feel like I'm on a forum then. I quit going on forums. I tried going on forums because I thought these people say, oh, well, those magazine editors, all they do is just, write drivel and suck up to advertisers. It's like, well, no, not really. That's not how that works. Maybe there's a few, but we don't do that. And so I used to try to go on forums and stuff, and invariably it would always be the same. Hey, I just want to let you know that new gun that I wrote about is actually really cool, and here's why and stuff. And then there'd usually be a few people who would say, oh, Mr. Huntington, thanks for joining the forum. We're very, happy to have you here. And, and they would ask me some questions about the magazine or the industry of the gun. And it was really fun. I enjoyed that. But invariably, about 8 or 10 posts down, you get some guy, right, that wades in and he goes, well, they're just all just suck-ups, and none of them are any good, and I hate gun magazines, and anyone who reads gun magazines is stupid. I just felt like I heard something from the Brady gun control group about guns.
Yeah. And again, what I love to point out to folks, and I won't get in the argument on the internet, there's no point, but, you are demonstrating the height of ignorance there.
Yeah.
Just saying that something is dumb because, or it's stupid. You're just showing your own ignorance. So I guess that's my advice and warning is, if you have specific reasons, and especially if they're arguable reasons, just say, these are my reasons and I choose not to. It was funny when you were talking about Glock. I won't use his name, but a friend we all know, and you'd know his name. He's well known for his use of the 1911. And he says, I don't care for Glocks. I own 20 some of them, but I don't care for them. And that's what I'm talking about. But I guarantee you, if a crisis came to pass and he had to go to guns, and the only thing he happened to be carrying at that moment was a Glock, he'd shoot it well, or he'd shoot his 1911 well, or he'd shoot the Polish Radom or the 1903, Remington, whatever. And to me, that's what I think both of us are in the same boat. That old saying of beware of the guy that's got one gun because he can probably shoot it. There is some truth. There's some falsehood to it. But the bottom line is that I don't care what you look like, what you sound like, if you use all the cool buzzwords and you are the ultimate forum warrior. That doesn't matter if you can't produce, whether it's competition, hunting, self-defense. To me personally, and I think I can speak for Roy here, you got to produce. And then all the other stuff goes by the wayside. And to me, quit being a poser. Don't pose. Just be competent.
I think that addresses this. Here is what is essentially, although it's a well-equipped gun, it's a plain gun. It has iron sights. It has no light rail. I don't even know that this has tritium in it, right?
Oh, no.
So a single stack, single action, manual safety. I mean, this checks all the box on basic retro. And I think too many people automatically assume that when they look at something and they say, oh, it doesn't have a laser. Oh, it doesn't have tritium sights. Oh, it doesn't have a red dot sight. Oh, it doesn't have a high cap magazine. Well, then it's not useful, and I think you nailed it when you said you can't buy competency. And I think that has been the bane of 1911s the world over. People look down and see a 5-inch all steel 1911 and they think, oh, well, that can't do everything that other super polymer, Zowie pistol can do. And it's like, well, no, actually, you're completely wrong. It can do all that stuff. You just have to be man enough or girl enough to know how to do it. I think something else I want to bring up here is that I think we in the firearms community, we endorsed, the open mindedness long before the LGBTQ,
RSVP plus community.
I mean, we have a community that welcomes change and variety. I mean, when I look out across the floor of the SHOT Show and I see the diversity there in different firearms and the people involved and all that kind of stuff, it's exciting. It's amazing what comes from the mind of man. And I don't discount any of it. Like your friend with the Glock said, I wouldn't own fill in the blank, but I certainly appreciate it, and I certainly endorse what they do, and I support what these people want to do. And so I think someone who says, "Oh, the 1911, oh no, that's dead. That's a stupid gun." Well, you're missing out on a lot of really cool things here. And yeah, I mean, I was thinking the other day. So it's like I have this like really fancy one. See this really fancy one from Magnaport, and everyone you'll be seeing that again soon.
Soon, yes.
But you can have the 1911 platform in 9mm and 38 Super and 380 and 22 and 45 ACP and 40 and 10mm. Think about that for a minute. You can get them with every kind of sight option that you want. You can get them with just about any kind of capacity that you want. You can screw just about any accessory your mind could think of onto a 1911 platform. Red dot sights and lasers and rails, and I mean, you can even put a bayonet on the end of one if you want to. And so, yeah. So think of that kind of diversity. I mean, you literally can create a 1911 to your specific design pretty easily. I mean, you can pick up the phone, and that's hard to do with just about any other platform out there. And so I think if anything, it's remained current.
Agreed. And, I think you raised a point that I hadn't thought about while you were talking there is some of the sour grapes might be from folks that aren't capable of building one, because not that any knucklehead can build an AR, but it's close to that, right?
Yeah.
To build a 1911 that runs, I couldn't do it. I know you can, but it's a little more challenging. You have to have some skills. And I think sometimes folks that want to just possess those skills without paying their dues, sometimes that enters into it too.
Well, you bring up a good point, I think, is that if they don't understand it. And so why did all the Salem women get hung as witches? Because people were afraid of them and they didn't understand them. Right?
What an analogy. But
I know, but it's exactly the same. And so, this 1911 is being, hung, by the neck until dead by people because they don't understand it,
Yep.
And they look at it, they're afraid of it. One lady told me one time, I said, "Hey, would you like to shoot a 1911?" She said, "Oh no, I'm afraid of them." And I said, "Why is that?" And she said, "I don't know how to make them not shoot." And initially you think, well, that's stupid. You just don't, but then when I actually thought about it for a minute and then I walked her through it, is that it made perfect sense. And because she said, when I look at that gun, I don't understand it. And I'm afraid of it. I don't know how to make it not shoot me, and as soon as I showed her 15 seconds later, she went, "Oh, can I shoot it?" And I don't understand. We talked a little bit about this in a Gun Cranks episode about the negative Nellies that are out there, and I think you should embrace these kind of things. So if your buddy at the range is shooting a beater World War I 1911, I mean the proper response is, "Gee, that's a neat old gun. Would you tell me about it?"
Can I shoot it?
Yeah, can I shoot it? Not, "Well, why would anyone be so stupid as to carry an old 1911 like that? You're an idiot. Why don't you have this?" It's like, what? Come on, you know?
Well, and I got to bring up another topic, and we talk about this a lot, and I will give Tom McHale credit again that we're too negative sometimes, but I don't like where the internet has taken us in a lot of cases, because we're doing it with this very episode. You've got to be, I hate to say clickbaity, but we have to have people watch these so that we can justify our existence, right? So to get seen among to be seen in this Tower of Babel that we've become, one of the only ways to do that is you have to be a little bit dramatic. And we wrestle with that every day, because we're not generally dramatic kind of people. But if we had titled this a discussion of the 1911 and its various points, nobody would see that. Our moms wouldn't even see that, So you got to punch it up, and it's kind of the nature of the beast. But the folks that have figured out that the wilder and the crazier I get, and the more I wave my arms and use all the buzzwords, the better my audience becomes. They tend to be the ones that we see, and they tend to drive the conversation. So I will say, I believe some of that has run its course, at least among the industry, because they're starting to realize just because the guy's the loudest doesn't mean that he will reflect positively on shooting the Second Amendment or the manufacturer in question. But we all kind of face that. It's that discussion of, do I punch it up to the point of it's really going to help my audience numbers, or do I just kind of talk about it and hope that that the cream rises to the top? But there's no right answer. You can go either extreme, you can go in the middle, and you just don't know. And you and I, just today when we were prepping for some of this, we've discussed what we need to do to get better audience numbers, and there's the unspoken question of what we won't do. And I don't think we've ever crossed that line, but bringing this full circle, that's the nature of the beast now. To be seen, to be heard. It's not a matter of working your way up through the ranks, perfecting your craft, becoming an editor of a magazine after years of practice. It's more about getting your cell phone out and being wild and crazy and doing stupid stuff in some cases, making wild, extravagant claims. That's what gets you the audience. So I know hate the player, not the game, or however that goes, but it's kind of the nature of the beast today, and that's driving some of this.
Except when it doesn't, because usually those people end up being flash in the pans.
Exactly.
It's like my experience with modern gun writers, if they can write about one topic, they can write about a Glock or write about an AR-15. But when I say, hey, write about the history of the 1911, cue the crickets.
What's Wikipedia say?
Yeah, what's Wikipedia say? So I think when I said the 1911 is dead, is it a little clickbaity? Maybe, but it's true. These are topics that are discussed. These people are interested in that kind of stuff, and I think it's right. But I know what you mean. Every YouTube video out there now has somebody going, for the thumbnail, and and unfortunately we don't do that, because you know what, we've really never done that, and we've only been in business for 75 years.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. So,
well,
but look,
I was going to say, I've told the story before, that one of the worst things that was ever said to me was from our producer, Ashley, our digital editor. And she was talking to you, Roy, and me and Mikhail about, our videos and what we need to be doing. And she said, you guys are influencers too. I'm like, no, because of the connotation. But, we are, and I'm trying to be humble about it, but I'm pretty damn proud of the fact of the shoulders I'm standing on. I mean, I'm a little old magazine editor, and I look at some of the guys that have been editor of Guns Magazine. I really don't deserve this, but it's pretty cool to think we've built up, the collective and those people I'm standing on their shoulders, we've built up this, brand that people trust. And I hope we continue to do it every day, that if people see us through the algorithm and they go, but I know those guys, and they'll say something that's worth listening to. So I hope that's always the case.
Yeah, or not. Huh?
Or not. Who knows?
I remember 35 years ago, I read an article. It was in one of our competitors' magazines, and it was Roundup of Police Auto Pistols. Right?
Ah, okay.
Right? So think about this for a minute. It was 1911, it was Browning High Power. It was Smith & Wesson Model 39. And of all things, Walther P38.
Really? Okay.
But that's kind of all that there was, And then so the article went on and talked about the virtues and the advantages and the features and the benefits of all these different kinds of guns, and how the lightweight Commander and 9mm was so revolutionary, but we all knew we needed a 45 for the knockdown power, right?
Yeah.
And so
knockdown.
Yeah. What I wonder about, though, is 50 years from now, 45 years from now, if someone is brave enough to do Roundup of Police Auto Pistols in 2024, well, not only is it going to take 387 pages, because there's, I don't know what, it's hundreds of different ones now, maybe, but it'll be interesting to see which of the ones that are currently in production will still be there. And guess what, boys and girls? I promise you, 50 years from now, whatever this is going to look like 50 years from now, whatever it will be, will still be around.
Exactly. I go back to the writer Dave Barry talking about rock and roll. He goes, we all know that the music today is awful, and not just because we're old and don't get it. It's just music's awful today because anybody can make it with a laptop. And he said, 50 years after or 100 years after Elvis, you're still going to be listening to Elvis. So I put the 1911 in that same category. So.
What a good analogy. I know exactly what you mean. So, okay. Yep. Well, hey, put a comment down there. Let us know. What do you think? Is the 1911 dead? Should we just not write about it anymore? Should we just look ahead and forget about it? Or do you agree with us that no, it's still a relevant platform? I mean, remember that even fairly recently, the military was still buying 1911s from Colt.
Yep. Well, Elvis and the 1911. So that would be the good alternate title. So,
well, thank you, Brent. That was fun.
Yeah. This was fun. And, again, that's why I enjoy doing these, because I was literally getting ready to hit the button. I said, oh, by the way, what are we going to talk about? Well, let's talk about the 1911. Okay. So we did. So hopefully folks continue to enjoy our conversations, and we'll keep doing them as long as you keep listening and watching. So anyway, Roy, once again, it's been a pleasure, and we will talk in the future.
Thank you, sir.
As always, it was great talking to Roy Huntington, and hopefully we made some good points about the ancient 1911 platform. Well, if you like what you're hearing, make sure you go to gunsmagazine.com or AmericanHandgunner.com. Check out all of our great stories and articles, and you can also sign up for our daily newsletters. There's a bunch of them there, and you can have everything delivered to your email inbox, including the Guns Magazine podcast latest episodes. So check out AmericanHandgunner.com, gunsmagazine.com, and of course, AmericanCop.com. Well, that's it for this episode of the Guns Magazine podcast. On behalf of everybody here at FMG Publications, Guns Magazine, American Handgunner, and AmericanCop.com, I'm Guns Magazine editor Brent Wheat, reminding you yet again, now get out there and get shooting.